Hello everyone, this is Anil. Welcome to Education Tat. We have been working on Flowable series. So far, we have completed focused sessions on Flowable Enterprise. But from last sessions, we have started picking up open source version. Today is the hands-on session. What we are going to create. First, we configure the prerequisite for creating an open source application. Then we will design the process, its form, and relevant artifacts. So be with me. Let's see. So I have already launched open source version on my Tomcat. I started its services. As we talked about in the overview sessions, we have task application for user facing interface where we can access the task, complete the task, assign the task, and do all the relevant activities which are required from a user's activity perspective. Modular application is where we can design, and it's more for the developer. Admin and IDM is more for the admin application users for controlling the flow of the application. So next thing what we want to do is we want to create some of the users through which we can control the workflow process and number of human tasks that we are going to create. So but before prior to that, what we want to do is we want to create a band workflow. Let's call it flow pistols. There will be band members, Zoram, Vixius, Zones, Paul, etc. So who have this gigs around the globe, albums to record in studios and TVs to throw out of hotel windows. The manager is Malcolm. We will start creating a simple process to help them manage themselves a little better. The first thing is we need to create and add and manage users. So for that, let's just quickly go through IDM application. This module of Flowable helps you to create and manage the users. You can either go and manually create this users group and their privileges, or you can even import them or configure to import them from some of the active or very standard user management softwares like IAM, Windows AD, or etc. Let's start creating some users. Paul flowpistols.com, which is the band name. Let's give admin as a standard password for all the users, which is easier to actually remember since we have the similar admin password for other users in the enterprise. So let's keep it like that. So same way we can add other users. I'll pause this video and other users in the background to save some of your. So as you can see, I have added a couple of users here. So admin was already created, then Zoram, Melcom, Paul, Jess, and Vivo. We have added all these users with these many email IDs in the name. Same way you can do this, either pause this video and create these users in parallel, or you can just take a screenshot and do this. Now the next is we will create some groups and map some of the users into that. So here we can create a group named Flow Pistols and can give the name as Flow Pistols and save this. With the new group, there are no members showing in the list. We can search the users and can add in the list. So we are going to add some of the users. So we can quickly add the users through this add user icon. We can search some name and add it quickly. We can add another user, Paul. Who else? We can add Zuram as well. And then the last user in the list. So we have added 4 users to this list. Next, we need to give the right access privileges to the different users. So for that, we need to switch to privileges. And here we are going to provide, basis on the different role, we are going to provide different user privileges. So here in access identity management application, as we can see that only one user is there. We can add more users. So let's add Malcolm. So this user we didn't add to any group, and we are providing access identity management application to this user, which is very similar to the admin privileges provide to this one. And then we can go to the access workflow application, and here we are going to groups, and then in this group we can provide this to flow pistols. First part of this demo is done, or this. So the next thing that we need to do here, we need to create a process. For that, we will go to Flowable UI again. And this time we are going to create a model so we can quickly jump to the designer through this modeler application. In here, we can start creating a process through this option. And then we can name this on gig and model gig we can plan. So you might be noticing that in enterprise version, when we were doing such kind of process modeling or the form modeling, these keys kind of thing could be like automatically created, whereas when we are doing in open source, this is something we need to do it manually. We are creating a new model. You'll be directly taken to this design interface with the palette BPMN 2.0 elements on the left side. There's a panel in the bottom part of the page with all the properties of the model. So these properties gets updated when we are designing anything. We can be on start event, so we can see all the relevant properties with start event. Similarly, we can click on the interface. We can see all the design properties or the properties related to this only. Now what we can do is we can start creating through the left palette activity, or we can just simply create a human task through this, and it is very similar to what we have in enterprise version. So we can click on human task. It will open up a form and create this human task just right next to the event activity. Now we can add exclusive gateway, and then we can add a human task. So here this we can give a name, choose gig location, and then this we can give a location, book, stadium, sound system. We can provide some space here, and then we can add another human task, and we can name this, just little align this one. We can give this a name, book transport for band here. Looking a bit cleaner now. Now from here we can add another exclusive gateway. Once we create all this process, we should be able to define this in a more efficient way. So we are just creating this follow me along for all these activities creation, and then here we can add up a end event, and then we can connect this activity to our exclusive gateway. We can reshape this to align a little better. So as you can see that this is a straight line, but you can add a couple of nodes here. So this is the option to add a node. Now with this, you can simply make this a little cleaner. In the same way, you can reduce the number of node or the connector using this minus icon. So very similar the way we did in enterprise version of Demo, we need to create some of the forms associated with these human tasks to be able to capture the data in these defined forms. So there are a couple of ways you can define the forms. One is to directly go to the form page, and or we can just simply go to the modeler page, and we can do both places. Let me just save one copy of it, because it's always good to save your work. So since we are going to initiate the form or initiate the process with this initiated task, so we can attach this initiated task with a form reference. So for that, what we can do is we can click on it. We can create a new form here. We can give some name, get gig region, and we can give the name this and get the region for the gig, and then we can create this form. This will open up a designer, the canvas. Here we can define a couple of properties. So for that, first we can give it a drop down. After this drop down, we can label this as continent. So when we are giving some label, you will see that the ID is auto generated. We can use the same, or we can even override without any difficulties. And then we can also change some of the generic properties like required and read only. And since it is a drop down, we want to provide some values to support it. An options tab, we can give some names, like add a new option, Europe. We can give the Americas, Asia, Africa. So these four options we have provided in here, and then we can close the form to save the configuration that we just. So this is the first form that we created. We can save in here, and then we can go to the process again, open the process, choose gig location. Choose gig location, and then we can again go to the form reference. We can create another form or reuse the form from this. So in here, we can create a new form. We can give this form some name, maybe gig details. Gig details, create this form. And in here, first we are going to drop an expression followed by one text area. Let me just look for a text area, and then okay, here is the text. And then we can use a date field as well. Now let's edit the expression one. Here what we want to use some of the information coming from the last form that we configured at the initiation of the process. Size for this gig in. So here we are binding continent. So this continent is coming from the last ID that we saw while creating the first form. So we can close this. We can also add a number field at the bottom. We can now add other fields. This will be edited with city, this will be date, and this will be size. So let me just do this. This form is done. I'm just saving it. We can go to the forms and we can create new forms where for stadium booking. So finally we can create a form from this place as well. We are calling this as a stadium booking. Form key can be stadium booking. Creating a form, and in the design what we can do is we can add a couple of fields. We can first add up an expression, and then we can add up a text field. So in a stadium booking, we can again use the expression, and we can provide expression something like, please arrange the stadium sound system for the tour, and again binding in what continent, on which date, in which city, and enter the reference. So this will be the expression, and on text we can give the stadium booking reference. We can save this. Now we have the task and forms to collect the data as we go through the process. But who's responsible for doing what? Responsibility is not a word that's familiar to rock stars like the flow pistols, but efficient processes means saving cost, which means more cash in the pocket of our rockers to spend on their outrageous lifestyle. So for that, the next thing in the demo, we are going to assign tasks to the people. For that, what you can, so the process is very simple. We can go to the process, we can open it in the visual editor, choose git location, and in here we need to check for assignment property. So from here we can have multiple options. We can go for identity store, fixed value, or any assignment. So by default we are just assigning to the initiator in the identity store. With fixed value we can do like this, or there are other options whether we want to do the single user groups, something like this, but we are keeping this simple. We are assigning to the process initiator. But in the case of choosing a gig location, we can assign this, but for booking stadium gear, Malcolm is the only person with the knowledge and appropriate responsibility to do it. So in that case we can select book stadium sound system, click on the assignment property. In here we can assign with the fixed value. So for that we can either assign to a single user and search for Malcolm. So here is the user selected, and we can also assign this and save. Here we can do one more thing, like we booked for created form for a stadium booking. Same way we can create one more task, say transport booking, and we can create very similar form that we did for stadium booking. One expression along with one text. On expression we can use the same expression. So here we are going to use, please arrange the transport booking for the tour in continent on date, in city, and enter the reference. So here this can be the reference number that is to be captured, transport booking reference, and say okay. This is also done. Let's attach this to the form visual editor. As we can see that this is referenced with get gig reason, this is referenced with gig details, this is referenced with the stadium booking. Very similar to that, we are going to reference this with transport booking. So I missed this creating this form earlier, so that's something I did it quickly. Now in the assignment we can go to a group, and here we can select our flow pistols and save. So the next is process is created. You should be able to understand how the process will look like. It will start from this initiator task. We will take some of the gig location, and basis on some of the exclusive gateway conditions, this will go here. So maybe if we are going to book the stadium, which means we want up to certain size, we want to go to this book a stadium. Otherwise we want to go to transport for band gear. So here over 2K, we have a choice of two paths through the process. So next we can define the conditions. Here we have provided for the over 2K. So we just provided the label. Now we need to provide some conditions here. So for flow conditions, we need to click on this. On condition expiration, we can say if the size k, which we are taking in the first form, is greater than 2, we will be following this path. And this will then work as your default flow. So seems like this is not enabling the option for selecting the default flow, maybe some bug with the current version. But nevertheless, what we can do is we can do the other condition if size k is less than or equal to 2. So this path will be followed. Otherwise, there must be one straightforward option to choosing the default flow through this, but it is fine. We are just doing this with some other value propositions available. So let's quickly recap what we have done so far. We have created one application of the process. We started with a very normal task where we are providing some of the basic information. We have the next task as choose gig location, and then basis on the number of capacity, if it is beyond 2000, it will go for book and stadium, or if it is less than that, it will go and book for transport for band gear. So this is very simple process. In the next session, we are going to see the working demonstration. Let me know if you have any issues following the example that we covered so far, and thanks for watching. I'm started getting some of your queries and I'm happy to work on it. Thanks.